والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم إلى نور الفهم وأكرمنا بمعرفة العلم وزين أخلاقنا بالحلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم ربنا نسألك الخير والبركة في جمعنا هذا وفي مسجدنا هذا وفي جاليتنا هذه. اللهم ربنا بارك لنا في مسجدنا هذا. اللهم ربنا وفقنا فيه لخير القول وخير العمل ووفقنا فيه لطلب مرضاتك. اللهم بارك لنا في أعمالنا وفي أعمالنا وفي أرزاقنا وفي أهلنا وذوينا وأحبابنا. ثبتنا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. اللهم اجعل لنا من كل ضيق مخرجا ومن كل هم فرجا. اللهم اجعل لنا من بعد العسر يسرا. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من عبادك الراشدين. والله, we call upon you, we pray to you, we beseech you, we ask you by your names and attributes to bless this space, bless this masjid, and to bless our community, and to bless every single one of us with guidance. Make us steadfast upon the right path. Help us navigate our relationships, help us navigate our difficulties, our trials in life, and make us of those who grow closer to you with every experience, with every passing day. Make us of those who are truly seeking your pleasure and truly seeking your Jannah. Oh Allah, we ask you to bless us and fill our hearts with your abundant mercy, and to fill our homes with your abundant mercy, to bless us and bless our families, and bless our community, and bless our ummah, the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to bless us with your love and the love of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the love of our deen, and to make that a means for our salvation in this dunya and in the akhirah. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. Akhir da'wan, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Amma ba'd, today we have a critical subject, and that subject's the subject of managing relationships and setting healthy boundaries. And this subject is a very big one, very vast one. It involves a whole lot of different subjects, but we're going to try to touch upon what's most important to everyone here. And the best way to figure that out is through you engaging us and sending your questions, as we usually do, and Ibrahim will emphasize. We use Slido, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, your struggles, your questions, your feedback, and hopefully that'll guide us to what to talk about in this discussion. We're going to be putting out different hooks, and we'll see which one bites. Because the subject of relationships involves family relationships, like relationship between parents and children. It also involves sibling relationships. It involves relationships between spouses, your relationship with your friends, your relationship with non-Muslims, your relationship with people in your life that you don't really necessarily consider friends, but people that you are put in a place to perhaps help or assist or guide. The way that we manage relationships deals with a lot of different things that play out in our lives. It often causes a lot of struggle because relationships could be very complicated. So, inshallah, we're going to do a little bit more of a detailed framing. But before I get more into it, I want to pass it over to Akhi Ibrahim to share the announcements and to get us going, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. Barakallah feek, Shaykh. Barakallah feekum all for joining us tonight. To echo what Shaykh Osamah was saying, first things first, we have the Slido here. You can put your questions from now. If anything came to mind as the Shaykh was speaking, any specific questions related to the conversation, you can put them down. If you see a question you can like it and put it up to the top. Also, on the chat, I'd ask if you could like the Friday Forum chat one, just because that's the WhatsApp chat link. We chose today's discussion based on a poll that was put there. So we, every week we'll have a poll, 3 or 4 options, discussions, topics, and you'll pick. And so this week, the topic was chosen by you guys. So if you'd like to join and participate, you can, I guess, copy paste the WhatsApp link and then get onto the WhatsApp. I guess that's how it works. Before we get into this, Shaykh, of course we have snacks on both sides, and please maintain decorum here. If there's any conversations, please have them on the side. But before we get into the discussion, yes?
The last Friday Forum.
Okay. Also, today is going to be the last Friday Forum for the year, unfortunately. So the next 2 weeks we'll have off for the holiday season. And then the next one that we'll have after this will be January 6th, Friday inshallah, same time, same place. And before we get into this, Shaykh, I wanted to take a step back and talk about something a little bit relevant, something in current events, the World Cup. Everyone's been following it, everyone's been watching it, and as we saw Morocco come to the top and come closer than any African team, any Muslim team ever has, I think so many people were invigorated to see that. So many Muslims in the community globally were invigorated to see that. Do you have any comments, reflections? Why was it that everyone was so united behind this?
Jazakallah khair, Akhi Ibrahim. I think that, people, became way more than a soccer game, for the entire Muslim world and, probably for the whole world altogether. I think many people who really don't care much for soccer, I'm one of them, started paying attention to what was happening. And that's why, it took more of a political and a social dynamic to it. And I think that, many shuyukh across the country have shared a lot of reflections, meaningful reflections, as to why it's important. I'm not going to talk about this in detail, by the way, about, okay, should it have happened, should it not have happened, but did a lot of good things come from it? I think the answer to that is, of course, yes. Everyone would agree that it gave a spotlight to Islamic values. It gave an opportunity for people to be guided to Islam. And besides this, this was a central reflection I had about it is, the burning desire by Muslims to experience some type of success. And especially when you're talking about the Muslim world and the Arab world and all of the corruption that people have been dealing with for decades, it sparks a lot of different emotions. To see how desperate people are to see something go right. And if you haven't thought about this, think about it for a minute. Our ummah has a burning desire for someone to bring us together, something to bring us together. And that's why, for me, it became much more than just about soccer. It was nice seeing, young Muslim people, by the way, they're all very young, in their 20s, early 20s, young Muslim people respect their mothers. It was nice to see that and have the world see that. It was nice to see people celebrate by remembering Allah. It was a nice thing to see. But all in all, for me, it has, two sides to it. A side of happiness and a side of sadness. It's sad that our ummah is so desperate to find some type of success that anything would make it go off the charts. And the reason why that's sad is because it reminds us of how grim the lives of many nations are. And this should remind us as Muslims in America of the opportunities that we have. We have so many opportunities. You know how many people across the Muslim world wish they had opportunity, wish they could get an easy job, wish they could get an education, wish that, society wasn't as corrupt as it was. Too many people. Now it's become a thing, I don't know if you guys know about it, but we'll have perhaps reflecting on the condition of the ummah in another Friday forum. But it's become a thing where certain relief organizations are trying to help people who graduate get their shahadat. It's a thing, it's mind-blowing. Someone spends years studying, I'm talking about Palestine. There's a few relief organizations, that's their whole goal. What are we trying to do? You have someone who finished their entire education, but they don't have the money to pick up their diploma because they got to pay certain things and let alone have a job. Can you believe this? Someone getting, and I lived in Egypt for 8 years, so I saw this. Someone getting a PhD, yet having to work as a taxi driver. It's sad. It's sad. So for me, these are the thoughts that came to my mind as I saw Morocco rising. I was really happy, but at the same time, I was sad for the ummah. That the ummah, wallahi, the ummah just wants someone to unite it. Wants someone to give it opportunity. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give the millions who don't have opportunity the blessing of a good leadership that'll bring the hearts together, that'll open the doors before them to success. Allahumma ameen. Amen.
Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Barakallah feek. Inshallah, we'll continue that conversation maybe in another Friday forum. So back to the discussion at hand, we discussed what kind of relationships we're talking about. So relationships between us as Muslims, us as humans, us as community members, us parents, friends at school or colleagues. So there's many layers to relationships that we're talking about here. So maybe we start at the beginning. At a general level, Muslim to Muslim, what kind of rights do we have on each other? And before you answer that, Barakallah feek, there's plenty of questions coming in. So please like the ones that you feel are, resonate most with you so that we can get to the ones. Right now there's a lot that just have one like. So the ones that have more likes we'll get to first. But yeah, Shaykh, can you please discuss, what are the rights that we have Muslim to Muslim?
Jazakallah khair for the question. I guess before that I want to take a step back and look at relationships on a bigger scale. And then I'll get to this question about the rights. It's really, really important to note that not all relationships are the same. And I need to realize this in terms of, my function and, the way I deal with those around me. You have the relationship with your parents, it has its own bracket. And then you have a relationship with friends, that's another bracket. You have your relationship with the general population of Muslims, that's another one. Your relationship with your co-workers, or your fellow students if you're still in school. And then with all of these different relationships, there are different spheres of interaction. You need to have boundaries in these different spheres of interaction. What type of boundaries? That's a discussion to have. Emotional boundaries is one. Family boundaries is another. Who should I allow to be my friend? What does friendship mean? Who should I allow to be my friend? What does friendship mean? Right? Who should you express your feelings to? How should you express your feelings? How should you express your feelings? Right? How honest should you be? Do you want a yes person around you? Or do you want someone to be a mirror? What do you really want? Maybe I have a faulty definition of friendship and maybe I have a faulty perception of relationships. What are relationships supposed to do for me? Right? How am I supposed to maintain my privacy? How am I supposed to maintain my autonomy and my independence in decision making? It's another big thing. What type of boundaries do I need to set at work or school so I don't end up losing my deen in the process? That I'm dealing with a certain category of people a whole lot of my time and it's going to shape my identity. For better or for worse, I need to think about this. The other thing I need to think about is, when does you don't guide whom you love take effect? إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. When does that take effect? Should I be in it all the way to the end, even if it destroys me in the process? When should I step back from a relationship? This is a really tough question to answer. Should I be in it all the way and destroy myself in the process? Or when should I take a step back? Right? Now these are just, again, the hooks that I was talking about earlier. Let's see which ones bite, because obviously we can't talk about all these in one segment. But engage us, as Akhi Ibrahim's mentioning, engage us here with what matters to you. We could make a lecture on each single one of these, just on the family relationship between parents and children, or between spouses, or between siblings, or we could talk about it in a general sense in terms of the principles that should be there in all my relationships, right? When it comes to rights, that was the question you asked, the rights of friendship. The rights of friendship are many. Now, we chose one of these circles, since you asked the question, one of these, I guess, doorways to go down. What are the rights of my friend upon me? The rights of my friend upon me are that I advise them when they need advice, that I encourage them when they're doing the right thing, that I advise them, this is one, that I advise them, this is my friends, right upon me when they need advice, that I encourage them when they're doing the right thing. That's number two. That's a true friend. True friend is not someone who's going to take spite towards you when they see you succeed. A true friend is not someone who's going to enable you when you're doing the wrong thing. That's absolutely the worst type of friend you want to have around you. A yes person. Someone's just going to enable you. Yeah, do that, say that, you're right. I'm with you all the way. Right? Why are you laughing? It's like I'm having a conversation. Imaginary conversation. Yes. No, I'm serious. These are two big rights that my friends have upon me. You know what? If someone wants me to be a yes person, then their whole idea of friendship is corrupt. This is not a person who's in their right state of mind for me to be an intimate friend with them. If they're going to get mad at me just because I'm giving them good advice, or just because I'm not getting mad at who they're mad at. Some people, there's a weird controlling aspect to them. I'm mad at this person, you need to be mad at them too. I hate this person, you need to hate them too. How dare you talk to this person when you know that I have an issue with them? No, come on, calm down a little bit, right? And then when it comes to going in more detail about the rights of friends, the rights of friends is that you're there with them in their time of ease, and you still stand with them in their time of hardship. And of course, look, when it comes to looking at the rights of friendship, you know, if you're someone who wants to be blessed with good friends, consider looking at these introspectively. Now, the worst thing you could do is say, okay, I know the rights of friends. All right, I heard about the rights of friends. Now I have like 100 phone numbers in my phone book, and I'm going through a lot of problems. I'm just going to start deleting all these numbers, these people, this person, he abandoned me or she abandoned me when this happened. If you try to cut out of your inner circle everyone who flawed in your regard, you're not going to have many friends in the end of the day. But if you try to be a good friend on a personal level, then Allah will bless you with good friends. That's how it should be perceived. Because you know what? This criteria is not going to be met by a whole lot of people. So if you're looking to empower people, you're going to find a ton of people that need empowerment. If you're waiting for those people around you to empower you, you're going to be waiting a long time. And maybe one or two people will answer that call. You know, I know this is not an easy thing to consider. What do you mean? Like you're saying that I need to see other people deficient and I need to be good and excellent in return? Of course, there's details for everything. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is, don't be too harsh and critical, and don't allow, you know, sometimes what you need to be able to do is overlook the flaws, the mistakes that people do. If you're someone who can't overlook flaws, you're not going to have many friends. That's just the reality of it. How does Allah deal with me? That should teach me a lot about how I should deal with people. Allah deals with me, وَيَعْفُوا عَنْ كَثِيرٍ. That's the basis of Allah dealing with me. Allah overlooks a lot of what I do. So much. Sometimes a friendship, a special friendship would be lost because of a petty disagreement. Something that was so foolish and unnecessary. Just because egos got in the way, something beautiful was lost. Right? So, you know, this is something that I think needs to be taken to heart. When you're thinking of the rights of friendships, look at how it applies to you first before it applies to anyone around you. Right? Now, there's a beautiful line of poetry in Arabic that says the following: إِنَّ أَخَاكَ الْحَقِّ مَنْ كَانَ مَعَكَ وَمَنْ يَضُرُّ نَفْسَهُ لِيَنْفَعَكَ وَمَنْ إِذَا رَيْبُ الزَّمَانِ صَدَعَكَ شَتَّتَ فِيكَ شَمْلَهُ لِيَجْمَعَكَ. Two beautiful lines of poetry that say the following. Your true friend is the one who's with you. And one person who harms himself to benefit you. And when the doubts of time cause you to be, confused and in a whole lot of misdirection, he gathers, or I guess you could say, he does everything in his power to bring you all back together. When you're broken, he or she's there to help fix you. Right? Now these two lines of poetry, if you find a friend like this is someone who you never let go of. Don't let go of a good friend who's a good advisor. Don't do that. It's a dumb decision. But of course, how many friends are you going to find like this? Not many.
May Allah grant
Some
us
people
these
might,
friends.
some people might think that this is just a thing you put on memes. Some people, when they feel like betrayed by a friend, they'll put like a meme with these two lines of poetry and they'll go put it on Facebook or something, so that all the other friends say, oh man, something must have happened. Who hurt her? People do it all the time. They send these indirect messages to each other through Facebook or something like that, just because someone bothered me. I'm gonna put a meme about it.
Subtweeting, yeah. So we have a lot of questions here. The first, how do you maintain boundaries with people of the opposite gender whom you may sense may have ill intentions?
How do you maintain boundaries with people of the opposite gender, especially if you think they have ill intentions?
Yes.
Okay. Whether they have ill intentions or not, I really think it's a good idea to have boundaries when you're dealing with the opposite gender, because things could go bad very quickly. Things could go bad very quickly. And each one of us we're all human beings, And that's why, in advice, I know a lot of things happen. College campuses, even MSAs, hangouts, sometimes brothers and sisters, even sometimes innocent communication, through messaging or whatnot. Again, we're human beings. Sometimes for some people it even gets to the point where they think it's okay in their mind. She's my sister. I'm just going to drop her off by her house. What's the big deal? It's not like I'm doing anything haram with her. I'm going to, allow brothers or sisters into my car just because I think that we're just friends, right? No. It's good to have boundaries in all cases, because things could go south very quickly. We're all human beings and we're all vulnerable. You never know when you're going to be struck by a moment of weakness. And, why do you think? The lack of boundaries is exactly why in our society we have the idea of sexual harassment through the roof. Why do you think we have that? Because there's no boundaries between genders. So, it starts off as we're just friends, and then the guy does something stupid, and it comes a sexual harassment case. This person put his hand or said something or did something, and and then it even happens. It happens between Muslims too. So I would caution and advise. Look, I know it might sound archaic to some. Don't be friends with the opposite gender. Don't be friends. Can you communicate with the opposite gender when needed? Yeah, sure. But please, don't tell me that he or she's the only person you can have a study hall with in the library. Come on, man. Come on. You need, the only smart person in the whole class is fulana. You need to go sit with her in the library so you could pass your class? Come on, yeah. The shaitan's playing with your head left and right. So I think that this is something to really consider. Wallahu a'lam.
Barakallah feek. The next question.
Especially if they have bad intentions.
There you go.
Especially if they have bad intentions. Oh my God. In that case, be very careful from this type of person. Be very, very careful. Right? Wallahu a'lam. I'll just stop there.
Do you want to continue?
No.
I can make a comment.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead if you want to make a comment.
Well, maybe we can reflect back on how the Sahaba, interacted with people of a different gender or the opposite gender in the marketplace or in public. The hadith about how women were able to, speak with men and men speak with women in a very respectful, straightforward manner. What were their boundaries like? Maybe we can take a look at that.
Of course, yeah, we could take a look at that, but again, their reality is just like so, even when we think about the companion, it's like a different world entirely. Like we're not even there to have that discussion about, because the companions, they were very upright bunch and an upright generation. We don't have those excessive interactions between genders. What we are dealing with is something far different. And I'm telling you, sometimes it starts off from a very innocent place, and then it becomes something else. I want to get married. He wants to get married. She wants to get married. What do they start doing? They do something called like a quote-unquote halal dating. We'll meet, in a public place. And we'll meet over an extended period of time for months on end. And we're just having coffee with each other or lunch or mash'arifeh. And we think that we're not doing anything wrong. But what happens? Emotional attachments build. And the conversation starts changing. And it ends up not leading to marriage, but it causes a whole lot of pain in its wake. That's not something that you could really justify. Halal dating in that sense? No. Allahu Alam.
Barakallah feek. The next question, how can you set boundaries with parents while still maintaining respect with relation to deen?
This is a tough one. And the reason why it's a tough one is because we get too many cases that of things becoming really complicated in people's lives because of family relationships, especially when we're talking about the parents and children. And there's too many things at play here. You can't really direct everything to one basket. And some things aren't really in your hand to change. None of us chooses our parents. And parents are not perfect beings. Sometimes they might have their own imperfections. But I need to understand something as a son or as a daughter, is that there are certain relationships that I can't easily turn my back on. I'm just going to put an X on this and discard it. No, you can't do that. The worst thing that a son or a daughter could do is think that they could have a relationship with their mother or father like they have with their friend. And usually this what leads to a lot of problems. That, the kid starts speaking to his father like he's his friend. So he argues with his father like he argues with his friend. And he never has any sense of respect or regard for that maqam of ubuwa and umuma. And that's a big problem, That's a really big problem. So this problem is multifaceted, multifolded. It plays out in the biggest part of where it plays out is the transition to adulthood. Because what you have is the kids seeking more autonomy and independence, and the parents, depending on who they are and how they are, having certain resistance to that autonomy and independence. And there's just like endless problems because of this. So sometimes what you need to do is you need to be able to pivot and adjust yourself. When you're talking about the relationship with parents and children, it's not a relationship of right and wrong. And usually the fatal mistakes happen when children or parents make it about right and wrong. It's a relationship centered on benevolence and care. Sometimes, most of your problems could be diffused if you just have a sweet tongue. If you just have a sense of good character. And I'll tell you, there's a reason. Take a look. Wallahi, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is so beautiful. When it describes, وَالْكَلِمَةُ الطَّيِّبَةُ صَدَقَةٌ. A pleasant word is a charity. Why is it a charity? Think about it. Sometimes a single statement could either lead to the solution to a big problem or the ruin that's brought about for days on end in a house. I'm serious. Sometimes one statement can have that power. A pleasant word could diffuse a big problem. And I wish that every son or daughter would be able to take this to heart, because it'll help you a big deal. When you have someone who makes it all about the facts, this person struggles a lot. This person struggles a lot. I can't tell you how many people have spoken to me, and their biggest problem is, well, my mother's saying this, and it's absolutely false. It doesn't make sense and it's not fair. Why do I have to accept it? Maybe sometimes it's not about what she's saying. Just say something to diffuse this person. This is, when it comes to managing relationships, this is a very important ability to have. Someone could be an expert at making things 10 times worse or making them a whole lot better. And وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةِ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. This is what we call hikmah and wisdom. And in order to be someone who can manage relationships, you need to go through a lot of problems and see a lot of problems until you get there. Because none of us have it all figured out. Everyone has their quirks and their problems in terms of their personality and the way they express themselves and this and that. But this goes a long way. So, how can you set... You know what? But again, like I said, this problem is not just on the kids. Sometimes it's on the parents. Sometimes parents need to know when to lay off. Sometimes parents, you have a type of parenting that creates a decision maker. And a type of parenting that makes someone who absolutely has no self-confidence. I'm telling you, this goes back to parenting. Why did my son or daughter choose to get into a haram relationship or do drugs or this and that? Sometimes it goes back to those values that are instilled, within. If I don't create a decision maker, someone who can really think independently, then I'm setting up my son or daughter for a whole lot of failure. Sometimes you need to know when to lay off. Sometimes the chokehold doesn't stop. After the child goes to college, chokehold's still there. When the son or daughter wants to get married, the chokehold's still there. When they have kids, the chokehold's still there. Sometimes, again, so that's why I say it's multifaceted. I've seen too many problems end in divorce because of people around the relationship acting like, I don't want to say it, but acting in a very irresponsible way. They end up ruining the life of their son or daughter because they're too controlling. They end up creating a whole lot of problems just because they can't do simple things to diffuse problems. So it goes back to the children and the parents. And wallahi, we're in this together. We need to figure this problem out together. Someone who functions like they have it all figured out, wallahi, is someone who's gonna, they're gonna suffer a lot in their life. Someone who functions like they have it all figured out is gonna go through a lot of problems. And I would be surprised if someone lives with this mindset and doesn't suffer. I'm telling you, just based on my experience with people, I would be surprised if someone doesn't suffer and they have this mindset. And sometimes this is the biggest turnoff for many parents. It leads to a lot of problems. Why? Because, their son or daughter, 18, 19, 20, mashallah, has everything in life figured out. Never wants to hear anything from their parents, right? Until they fall the first time, and then they fall the second time, and then the third time after that. Some people wake up, some people never wake up. So, I would advise, if I invest in myself, well, it's going to fix a whole lot of problems. Invest in myself in becoming a sincere person, a genuine person, who's willing to sacrifice for others, who's willing to listen to advice. If I do this, all my problems in my relationships are going to be figured out. Whether I'm talking about my friends, I'm going to be talking about my parents or my spouse or whoever, it's all going to be figured out if I, develop the right qualities within myself. It doesn't mean to say that everyone's going to become perfect around you, but you're going to know how to pivot. That is a critical thing. I'm going to know how to pivot in my friendships, all right? This friendship is really bringing me down. Maybe I don't need it in my life. Maybe I need to withdraw from this, tactically withdraw from it. You don't need to stay friends forever with every person you develop a relationship until the end of your life. So anyway, but that's a different subject. You asked about the parents. So.
Barakallah feek. The next question here, I'm going to ask it because it's a precursor to the first or the top rated question. What is your opinion on a woman approaching the man for marriage?
We keep on going back to the marriage subject. It seems like everyone wants to talk about marriage. So what's my opinion about, here I'll say it again. I think that either person who's seeking marriage approaching the other is a horrible idea. I think it's a horrible idea. Whether it's the guy approaching the girl or the girl approaching the guy. Even though a lot of people might do it today, but I strongly encourage against it. Why is it a bad idea? Because it doesn't always lead to problems, but it has a big potential to lead to problems. What do I mean exactly by that? Is you don't know what's going through the other side's mind. You might cause a great sense of embarrassment, especially if the other side's someone who wasn't ready for that type of request. Or you might cause anger. That embarrassment might cause anger. Like, who are you? Why are you there? Or you might cause a sense of, rejection. And that'll hurt your ego. And, sometimes that might stay with you for a long time. I think that's a really bad idea. The best idea would be to put an intermediary between you who can anonymously ask. If you have interest in a sister or a brother, find someone who could be a good middle person and have them ask anonymously, is there any reality in which you would be interested in fulan or fulana? Or what do you think? Or I'm not giving you the exact, but don't quote me. Say it in a way where the other side doesn't know that someone's asking about them. That's the best thing to do. It's the lightest approach. It saves your ego from emotional pain, and it also saves the other side from feeling a sense of guilt from rejecting someone, for whatever reason. Allah.
I'm going to press here because we can take the question literally, but if we take it non-literally and we use that advice, what is your opinion again then on a woman being the first mover? Since the stigma generally is, the guy has to ask,
Well, no, if you take this advice and the woman wants to ask about a certain guy and does it through a third person and that person does it anonymously, I think we remove all of the fear that's attached with it. I don't think there's any issue with that. Because the other issue with that is you don't want the relationship to, sometimes, there's a lot of detail you could go into here about, I guess you could say, perception in the very beginning of your interactions with someone you're considering for marriage. Perception is key, because I don't know you yet. And because I don't know you, I'm going to start shaping my idea about you based on how you function. If you're coming to me, well, I'm going to naturally feel that I'm in a position of power because I know you want me, and now you're waiting to see if I want you. So I don't think that's a good idea for a sister to put herself in that type of position. But if you do it the way I'm suggesting, through an anonymous third party, then you're good. That's fine. It's okay if a sister asks if a certain person would be interested, and if they could ask on your behalf in a very discreet way. But that's the reason. That's the reasoning behind the thinking. Yeah.
Barakallahu feek. Another marriage question, if that's okay. Can you talk
about
about
a marriage lecture? We're waiting to bring Shaykh Yasser for that one.
Well, I'm looking through them. It doesn't seem that there's many more than this one. But since we mentioned, relationships or boundaries between genders, this question came up. Can you talk about how you can set boundaries with someone you are getting to know for marriage?
How can you set boundaries?
With someone you're getting to know.
Yeah, I think it's very important that you be very careful. Now, there's a lot of things to mention here. Inshallah, when we have the official marriage lecture, inshallah, we'll try to bring Shaykh Yasser and Ustad Zaid as well for it. But when we have that, we could talk about it in detail. You should be very careful and very deliberate. Deliberate's a better word. Deliberate in the sensitive information that you share. You should follow this with any friend, by the way. Any person in your life. Be careful with the sensitive information about yourself that you share. Because sometimes it could cause things to sour if you mention something too soon. Right? Or if you mention it, in an unwise way. And what I mean is, the boundaries that you should set in those types of interactions, first off, you should keep it very limited. And secondly, I would emphasize, especially for sisters, make sure that you maintain your dignity, you maintain your position and your respect, because that's key. You don't want a guy who's considering you for marriage to look down upon you. The worst thing that you could do as a guy or girl is start sharing your dirty laundry about your family with someone too soon. Bad idea. You know what, even after marriage, this is a bad idea. You need to be very careful with this. You know, if a girl, you know, she's interested in a guy and they're still talking, oh, I hate my mother because she's like that, and I hate my father, and my father's just so this and that, or, and then just start trashing your family. It's a really bad idea. Why? Because you're setting yourself up. You know, there's a reason why it's a good idea to have your family in your corner when you want to get married. Because the power dynamics are key here to keep, a good balance. You don't want to be left vulnerable or feeling vulnerable or seen as vulnerable by the other side. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. And there's just too much I could address about that. But, again, just be very careful about the sensitive information you share. Be very careful about how quick you are to be open with the other person, whether you're a guy or the girl. Be very thoughtful about this. Some guys, again, some people, they get these attachments too soon. They allow themselves to start communicating every single day because it's filling a certain void inside them. And, but the problem with that is when you start communicating at that level, it just makes you say things that you shouldn't say in that stage. And open yourself up to a person who's still a stranger to you in a way that you shouldn't open yourself up to them. And then the other thing with this is the biggest thing. Don't be that person who asks for someone to share their past or who's quick to share your past. Be very careful about this. Everyone has things they do and regret later on in life. If you're that person who's trying to open what Allah has left concealed, then you're going to cause a lot of haraj to people around you. You're going to cause a lot of problems for them. And if you're that person who's made mistakes and you say, oh, you know what, I want to be honest and I just want to share everything, sometimes you might ruin your relationship before it even takes off the ground. Don't share your sins openly too quickly. It needs a lot of thought. It needs a lot of consultation. Allah. That's what I would say to that person.
Barakallahu feek. Is it okay to cut off a person who is not good for you because they are negative and you feel it's not a healthy relationship? Or would this be abandoning your fellow Muslim?
Is it okay to cut off a... Look, this is an important subject. I'm happy that we got back to this subject of friendship. And if you're talking about a non-family member, I would say understand the following. There is no shar'i obligation for me to be a close, intimate friend with any particular human being. There's no shar'i obligation to this. You might feel an emotional obligation because there's a lot of history between you two. But sometimes it's okay and wise and even smart to limit certain relationships. Sometimes it's needed. Maybe perhaps once upon a time I wasn't really close to the deen and I had certain friends around me, but now I'm starting to become more religious minded and I'm feeling that these relationships are distracting me instead of making me better. You need, especially when we're talking about emotionally abusive friends. Sometimes this happens, especially, sometimes it happens, between people that, there's becomes this like emotional abuse where I need to basically do, and these people aren't really friends, they aren't really friends. I need to basically cater to this person's needs whenever they expect, and I need to come rushing to their service or else they're going to get angry. I need to be, like some people, they're just unbelievable, like with their phone calls and with their messages, and some people they're very, very persistent. If you don't answer them back within a very short period of time, they're going to get mad at you. Why didn't you respond to me? You don't care about me. Who do you think you are? Well, you think you're, and it's come from a place, sometimes it's really bad to have a very self-centered friend in your life. Someone who they never reciprocate anything. There's another thing. So if I was to word this question a different way, what are the things that warrant sort of tactically withdrawing from a relationship? And what do I mean by that? Instead of seeing this person every single day, I'm going to maybe perhaps reduce it to once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or upon occasion only. Because again, you don't want this friendship to derail you. Sometimes, I can't tell you how many times this happens. Sometimes a friendship could end a marriage, right? Because again, chatter, bad advice. And this happens with guys and it happens with girls. It's not only a girl thing, by the way. Sometimes a guy could, whisper one too many bad thing in his friend's ears. Oh, you shouldn't let her do that to you. Oh, you need to show her who's man, right? You need to be the man of the house. You need to be the one who's in authority, right? And this other stupid garbage advice that sometimes, a bad friend could give his friend, and then the same thing with the other side. Sometimes, the bad advice would cause problems between spouses. The bad advice would cause problems between spouses. And then when it comes to those friendships, again, if you could, the things that you need to consider are, is this person helping me in my deen? This is top consideration number one. Is this person bringing me down emotionally? This is consideration number two. Is this person making me participate in things that are somehow haram or unlawful? Jazakallah khair hajj. Rabbina yakrimak wa yakrimu inshallah. So Allah alam, these are some things to consider. Some things to consider. Again, don't keep a friend who's going to keep you down. You don't need to necessarily officially cut off ties, right? You don't need to announce it to the world. I'm going to go to whatever social media I have, or I'm going to share it with all my friends. No, don't make a scene, right? But maybe perhaps, all right, you need to make a wise decision. This person is really not good. It should never be a one-way thing, a one-way relationship where I'm like constantly slaving over this person. I'm doing for them whatever they want. Some friends could be narcissists. Some friends could be narcissists. It's like, it's always about them. And if you never feed their emotional cravings, if you don't always feed their emotional cravings, then it's going to be a problem. That's not really a friendship to have. Allahu Alam.
Barakallah feek.
What you do need to have is salamat al-sadr. Sorry, I do that to you a lot.
It's okay.
What you do need to have is salamat al-sadr. Don't hold grudges. Don't hold grudges. That's what you need to have. You don't need to have a friend. You don't need to have a friendship with every person. What you do need to have is don't hold on to grudges. The worst thing you could possibly do. It'll hurt you and burn you and kill you on the inside to hold on to a grudge. Worst thing you could do. I'm going to cut off fulan or fulana. Why? Because this person hurt me, and I'm going to make sure they know it and everyone around us know it. And I'm going to just hold on to this grudge with my teeth. Wallahi, it's going to make you suffer.
Barakallah feek. I'd like to talk more about this. Someone have a question?
No, he's just saying salam.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to talk more about this. I think on the opposite spectrum of people, cutting people off left and right, a lot of us struggle with, knowing people for such a long time, going to school with each other, or elementary, then high school, then college, and suddenly you have a group of people or a group of friends that you've known for 10, 15 years. And over 10, 15 years, a lot of people change. Is it important that we're constantly reassessing our circles and potentially doing a detox? Because there's a joke, as guys, when you're with a group of guys, you're going to be with them forever, no matter what. And do you think it's important that we reassess that? That sometimes, there has to be some reorganizational, changes here.
Like those people, that make announcements on Facebook. I'm going to be cleaning my friends list over the next few days.
Well, not like that.
I don't know. People are funny.
I don't think it has to be public, but maybe we think about it in our heads. Well, who are the people that I'm around? I've known these guys for 10 years, and I suddenly feel so attached to them. And
Yeah.
no matter what, I'll be around them.
Yeah.
Do we need to think more consciously about the people we're around?
Yeah, of course. Be someone who's attached to principles. Don't be attached to people. Be attached to principles, values. Let that direct the discussion. Islam teaches us to operate like that, by the way. Stance over individuals. Look at the Quranic ethic. When the Quran mentions certain things, it highlights principles before it highlights people. How many times has the Quran told us about someone and left out their name? Because their name is not really what's so critical for you to know. But what they did is, like for example, that man, وَجَاءَ رَجُلٌ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ يَسْعَى, that person who came from the far parts of the town. Oh, my people, follow the messengers. You know his name? In the books of tafsir, they'll tell you a name, but the Quran doesn't, right? That رَجُل مُؤْمِن مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ, does the Quran tell you his name? No, it doesn't. Right? You might find his name in the books of tafsir, but what the Quran's teaching me to think in terms of principles. And the truth is known by principles. People are known by the virtue of the truth, not the truth being known by virtue of people. One of the most toxic things is for someone to take stances in life based on their allegiances. I have an allegiance to so-and-so or so-and-so, so I'm going to operate on that through and through. And I think that's one of the dumbest ways to function. It's such a jahili way. So it's إِنَّا وَجَدْنَا آبَاءَنَا عَلَى أُمَّةٍ وَإِنَّا عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Do we have this sense in our communities, in our relationships? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. That people just function based on shallow allegiances. It's not really about truth. It's not really about principles. It's just because I'm superficially committed to this person, so I'm going to follow suit. I'm going to do what they like, and I'm going to hate what they hate, and I'm going to take a stance from those who they take a stance from. And, that's not a way to live. So of course, detox and reassess and all the rest. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, sometimes life ends up sending you down certain directions. Your interests might change, their interests might change. You might get married, they might not get married. And you might have kids, they might not have kids. And all of this ends up, affecting friendships anyway, whether you like it or not.
Barakallah feek. Can you discuss the adab and character of minding one's business, leaving that which does not concern them?
Can I explain the adab and character of minding your own business, right?
Yes.
Look, I think it's really important to respect people's boundaries. The whole part of the subject is setting healthy boundaries in relationships. One of the worst things you could be is that person who's trying to pry into every person's detail. Don't be that type of friend where you need to be able to know everything about her or him, or else they're not really your true friends. Come on, man. You want to know about their deep, dark secrets, what's happening in their home, sometimes with their husband or with their wife, or how they're choosing to raise their children. Don't do that. That's very toxic on a spiritual level, to pry into people's privacies, right? Respect people's boundaries and their right to have something private. And this gets lost, especially with families. And I'm going to take it back to the whole family dynamic sometimes. The involvement, you'd be shocked about some of the stories that I hear and am involved with sometimes how involved parents could get in their children's marriages. It goes from even naming their children, their grandchildren. It goes to even, you'd be surprised, even subjects of intimacy between their children and their spouses. Even sometimes relating to things relating to hygiene and family and, why do you have this and why don't you buy that and you need to do this and you need to do that. And sometimes it's just, be a person who knows your boundaries. Don't be that person who breaches the privacies of others and wants to know the secrets of others. That's not what makes a friendship. What makes, give people their space. When they want to approach you seeking advice, they'll come and seek advice from you. It's really, really important. I think this is an important subject for Allah. And those are only just parts of it, but it often leads to a lot of problems.
Barakallah feek. How far can you go with friendships? Are the Ansar and the Muhajirin a good example?
I just want to emphasize here, look, minding your own business doesn't mean being silent upon falsehood and upon sinfulness and corruption when it's happening. When I see someone oppressing another person, I can't say I'm just going to mind my own business. No, I need to tell this person, hey, what you're doing is wrong. You're hurting another human being. You need to stop, right? I need to have that courage even with my own friend. I might lose this friend in the process. But that's why this happens. If you're a person who seeks truth, you'll find that your antagonists are going to be many. Especially when you're in a position of judging between people. Sometimes when you don't judge in the favor of your friend or someone you have a good relationship, they're gonna spite you. They're gonna have ill feelings towards you. And they might go gossip about you with their friends or with other people. And of course, that's why we have a day of judgment. We have a day of judgment for a reason. People are going to be asked about what they said, what they did, how they spoke about others. May Allah protect us. May Allah forgive us. But really, minding your own business doesn't mean being silent upon truth. When you see something wrongful or sinful happening, the best thing you could do is advise your friend. Sometimes they don't want your advice, but hey, you know what? I need to be a good friend and be a mirror for this person. This person doesn't know what he or she is doing to them. They're ruining their life. How could I just sit in silence in the name of, well, I'm minding my own business? They told me not to get involved, or they didn't really want advice. You want to say something? Tfaddal. So look, Jazakallah khair, really good question. The first, take a look at the first goal of giving advice is to actually incur change in the one you're advising. That's the first goal of giving advice. Pay attention to that. What do I mean by, if that's really the first goal of giving advice, that means I need to position this advice in a way that will actually bring about a positive result. That's why giving advice is about seeking the best interest of the one you're advising, right? And if I say something in a way that's so hurtful that causes this person to reject truth just because of the way I said it, I really didn't give them advice. I triggered their ego. I caused them to reject truth because of the way I expressed myself. That's not fair. That's not being a good friend. Giving advice isn't about lecturing a person or being condescending or putting them down. That's not what giving advice is. Is it going to change from person to person? Yeah, because people are not all the same. Some people, you could be straightforward and direct with them. And some people, you really need to be delicate, empathetic, especially even about the subject. It changes from subject to subject. You need to be delicate, you need to be empathetic. Sometimes people need a head-on approach and some people need an indirect approach. And of course it's going to be different based on it being a friend, a spouse, or a parent. You can't, if he'd be a fool if that person, approaches his father, with the same mindset as he approaches his friend. He comes and sits down and says, Baba, I want to give you advice, by the way. You have a temper, and, you're a very unreasonable person. I think you need to get some help. Yeah. His temper is going to unload on you, right? That would not be very smart, Not to mention all the dua they're going to make against you, you know. But anyway, so the first directive is to try to incur change. The second after that is, if that's not possible and it's relating to the rights of others, I need to take a more direct and aggressive approach. I can't just see someone oppressing another human being, like even if it's my father or mother. Sometimes they might be oppressing one of my siblings, or my father's oppressing my mother, and it's happening in front of me. I can't just tahassas alayh. Oh, you know, be a good person, please, yani, it's good, it'll get you to Jannah, ومش عارف ايه. يعني خلاص. No, sometimes you need to be more direct. Sometimes in a certain situation, you need to be aggressive with what you're saying, especially if it relates to oppression. You know, worst thing a friend could do is see and know that their friend is outright gossiping about this person. You know, the guy was married to her, and now he's creating all kinds of lies among his friends, smearing her reputation just because he spites her, or vice versa. Sometimes it happens all the way around. I'm just giving you a random example, by the way. I'm not talking about a particular situation. But that happens. That happens. You know, I'm very spiteful. I just went through a divorce. I'm going to make sure that everyone hates this person. You know, and I'm going to share a whole lot. No, that person, if you see someone acting like that, قُلْ لَهُمْ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَوْلًا بَلِيغًا اتَّقِ اللَّهِ. Fear Allah. My friend, what you're doing is going to ruin your akhirah. You're not my friend anymore? Your choice. It's your choice. Sometimes I need to be aggressive, but that's not the first course of action. That comes after I lose all hope of anything else changing. Yeah, Allah Alam.
Barakallah feek. I'll go to the audience. Does anyone have any questions in person before we go back to the questions on Slido?
There's one over here.
Tafadali.
If you see your friend's parent oppressing them, what do you do as the friend? Well, you know, this is all going to be very case specific. How involved are you? Do all the parties know that you're involved? You know, do you have a word with this parent or not? It's all really going to be dependent on that. Can you involve a third party? Can you empower your friend to take a courageous step to involve a third party? That's something you might need to consider, right? So, you know, it's all going to be very case specific. But I would advise, if you know your friend is experiencing either emotional abuse or physical abuse, you need to urge them to do something about it. And that starts by them talking to someone who's trusted, someone who could perhaps have some influence in the subject. Maybe it could be a mentor, an imam, a teacher, or it could be another family member that perhaps might have some sway with these parents, or this parent who's functioning in that way. But you should not be silent about it. And you should also be very careful, because you don't want to cause more problems for your friend. Sometimes, some people, they try to fix a bad situation, they make it a whole lot worse. You know, so they'll just, irresponsibly go to the person who's doing the abuse and trigger their ego, and they'll do a whole lot more abuse after that. So those are some advices I would give. Wallahu alam. There's one over there. So, can you repeat what he said for everyone to hear? I was listening, but I don't know if everyone heard what you said. So, go ahead.
So basically, the brother was trying to give some of his insight or experience or thoughts on how to adjust the attitude of a parent in a wiser way. He's suggesting maybe you try to address the reaction instead of address the core or the attribute, and maybe by addressing the reactions every time, there will be a gradual change.
Good. Imagine if you weren't listening. That would have been embarrassing.
That would have been bad.
So I totally agree with you in many of the cases. Not all of the cases, but sometimes correcting the son or daughter's reaction is a whole lot easier than actually changing the parent. Because you got to think of it like this. Your parents, they might have been alive on this earth for 50, 60 years, maybe some of you 40 years or something like that. They have developed certain convictions about life and how they operate. And for that to change, unless they're an extremely humble person, is going to be a very big task. Especially when it comes to their children. I might be willing to accept the advice of a stranger, but my son or daughter, even siblings with each other, they won't accept each other's advice. The ego just sets in, like, no way, who are you? You're my little brother. You're my little sister. Your word means nothing. Who do you think you are? You're going to advise me? I'm not going to listen to you. Even if you might, have really good experience. So sometimes you need to consider this. And then, again, but I just want to caution, correcting the reaction doesn't necessarily mean, like, I can totally feel and empathize with a person who's going to say to me the following. It's not fair. They're the ones who are wrong. It's so obvious. Why should I have to change because someone else is just so unreasonable? It's not fair. And my response to this is, I feel with you. But it's not about what's fair. It's about what's going to fix your life and their life in this circumstance. And sometimes if you just change your reaction and temper it, you would be able to, it takes a really disgusting person to, if someone's like just very respectful and polite and caring and compassionate, for them to just completely bulldoze over all that and still be injurious. It happens. I got some of these cases before where the person is like, the son or daughter is very, very, very soft and, not aggressive at all, but for some reason they've been tested with a parent or both who's very, very abusive, and is just unbelievably abusive, like in favoring one child over all the others, and even sometimes physically, in terms of verbally, like every other word that comes out of their mouth is just like, curse this and curse that. You'd be surprised what some people are going through. You would be surprised about what some people go through. So it doesn't apply to all situations, I agree, but that's an extreme situation. What Yusuf was just saying right now will resolve maybe perhaps like 80% of the problems. 80% of the problems will go away if I just change my reaction. I need to learn to choose my battles. I need to stop thinking with my mind all the time when I'm talking to my mother or my father. I need to start thinking a little bit more with my emotion. All right, you know what, I'm just going to shut off my mind for a minute. I know that the things that they're saying are absolute nonsense because of whatever, and sometimes it happens when, sometimes this could be like, like maybe perhaps the mother or father weren't blessed with the same education that their children are blessed with. The father or the mother labored their whole life and they got their kids to get high degrees. The worst thing you could do as a son or daughter is start showing off your intellect and, you're someone who understands way more than your parents, right? Your parents, ما بفهموش أي حاجة في الحياة, and you're going to come and show up yourself. Who got you there? Who you think helped you get through those initial stages of your life? However good or bad they are, there's usually going to be good things. So that applies to 80% of the situations, but there are still those 20% of situations where the person's doing everything that they should be doing, yet they're still being abused for no good reason at all. So, Wallahu alam. Yeah.
Barakallahu feek. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Okay. I'll ask one more and then we'll see how we're feeling since it's getting a little late. 9/11. Yeah. Make a wish. How far can you go with friendships? Are Ansar and Muhajirin, are the Ansar and the Muhajirin a good example? I know you mentioned the bit shi'r, how far and what kind of friend you should get. How far can you go with friendships? Are the Ansar and the Muhajirin a good example?
There's something that comes to mind when you say that. How should you operate? Well, who are you looking for, Habibi? what does your shirt say? Paris, what is it? Let me see. Paris loves me? I don't know what that means. Anyway, I have no. So anyway, how should you operate? How should you operate in your relationships? Look, take things very easily. Don't be an excessive person to either extreme. There's a beautiful Arabic wisdom that says the following. It says, أحبب حبيبك هونا ما عسى أن يكون بغيضك يوما ما وأبغض بغيضك هونا ما عسى أن يكون حبيبك يوما ما. So it's teaching us to be an emotionally balanced people. I'll tell you, becoming an emotionally balanced person is not something easy. It's actually a big fiat, a big accomplishment. To become someone, and we learned this from the Prophet ﷺ, I'm not extreme in my reactions, not extreme in my love. Some people are really extreme in this regard. They're very extreme in their love and they're very extreme in their hatred. When they love someone, they'll raise them to the high heavens. Even sometimes it happens with a friend. Like non-stop, just getting gifts and slaving over people. I'll do this for you and I'm willing to do that. And this person sometimes is miskeen, because it ends up getting hurt a lot by people. Because they're going over and under to help people out, but people don't reciprocate that, right? And it causes a lot of hurt when this person... So don't be extreme in your emotions. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us this in both regards. Prophet ﷺ was a very emotionally intelligent person. Prophet ﷺ, when people made mistakes, he didn't forget the good things that they did. Have you ever, like by a show of hands, I'll tell you, I would answer this yes, but by a show of hands, have you ever, seen a situation where, a person has done a lot of good, but because of a mistake, someone would overlook all the good they did and just see the bad. They just see like absolute darkness. Like this person just came straight from Jahannam. He's an absolute shaitan. Right? Have you seen people react like this to situations where they'll forget the goodness? Raise your hand if you've seen it. Raise your hand. Allahu Akbar. Everyone's raising their hand. Man, you guys have been through a lot of problems in your relationships. But no, seriously, some people react like that. That this person has no qima, no value. They're an absolute devil because they did the wrong thing that really bothered me. Be balanced in your love and in your hate. And that's what this wisdom is teaching us. It says, love the one you love with temperament. Because this person might be your enemy one day. And that's not to think, well, okay, when's this person going to become my enemy? But it's just take it easy. Take it easy. And sometimes this is a good wisdom in relationships, especially, new starting relationship. Don't be excessive, where you show the other side you're absolutely desperate. Like you're all over them, whether it's the guy to the girl or the girl to the guy. I need to non-stop message this person. Oh, and whenever I make a mistake, oh, please, are you angry at me? Did I offend you? Please forgive me. And then I'll say it 5 times after that. I'm sorry. I hope you're not angry anymore. I hope I didn't hurt you. And I'll just keep on apologizing and apologizing. And it'll come off to the other side as so excessive that they start undermining you as a person. You don't want that. You don't want to be undermined. So then the rest of the wisdom says, and hate the one you hate with temperament. Don't hate anybody. But anyway, take the wisdom from it. Hate the one you hate, or have ill feeling, or not ill feelings, how can you say? Don't resent people in extremes, because you never know. This person you resent today might be your friend tomorrow. Give people a chance. I want to underline this. Give people a chance. When they make a mistake, give them a chance to correct it. Right? That's an important thing. Wallahu alam. Huh? As a chance? How many How many chances is a good question. Well, that's why we said everything in balance. But how many chances is a good question. It depends on who they are, ya hagga. It depends on who they are. If they're your mother and father, give them chances until the day you die. This is different. If they're your son or daughter, don't... Huh? I'm not talking about you or anyone else. But anyway, if they're your son or daughter, There are certain things that you should never do. But don't be that person. Again, I know sometimes your children might hurt you. Don't make dua against your kids. Don't say, "Inta mish ibni, khalas," or "Inti mish binti." Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't disown your children. Wallahi, it's a bad decision. Sometimes it becomes like this contentious battle between between the children and the parents. If you get married to fulana, then you never come to this house again. You're not my son or your daughter and my daughter anymore. That's it. هذا فراق بيني وبينك. It's a bad decision. Don't do that. It depends on who you're talking about. But then how invested am I again going to become? Even with my children, I could give them advice, right? But how much advice could I possibly give them? إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء. If I've done everything in my power, then I have a clear conscience between me and Allah Azza wa Jal. All right, I need to I'm going to let things play out as they may. And I know, wallahi, it's hard sometimes for parents, and sometimes for, even for other people besides parents, just see someone ruining their life and not listening to anybody. And you're just seeing this person so blind. They're not realizing what they're doing and how they're going to, just cause so much hurt to themselves. And it's hard to swallow this sometimes, but you have to. What can you do? You give advice. After that, can I kill myself? Allah says, لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُصَيْطِرٍ. You can't control them. You give them chances, khalas, they don't want to take it, then all right, I've done my part. I'm not going to cut you off if you're my son or daughter, or if you're my mother or my father. If you're my friend, if you're not one of those critical relationships, then I'm gonna strategically withdraw from it, and I'm gonna make it less and less. If you're someone who's hurt me as a friend, and you haven't owned up to your wrongdoing, and you're continuing in your oppression, then yeah, I can understand why you would carry some anger towards this person, and it's going to be hard to erase that. But even with time, even with that type of person, best decision for you, do it for yourself. Forget about them. Forget about them for a moment. Sometimes people hold on to things for a very long time, and they end up suffering because of it. Don't do that to yourself. Forget about the other person. How many people have told me, I don't feel happy. This person oppressed me and took my rights and did so many bad things to me. And now I just see them moving along with their life, and they're happy and they're smiling, and it seems like they didn't get what they deserved. They never owned up to the wrongdoing they did. There's a day of judgment for a reason. If you don't get your rights in this life, you'll get it in the akhirah. Don't ruin your life because people aren't doing the right thing. And then again, give them a chance to correct themselves, but if they continue and continue and continue, then you need to have a certain reaction to that. Wallahu a'lam.
Barakallahu feek, Shaykh. If there are no more questions, I think we can conclude. Just a reminder, are there any other questions? Okay. Just a reminder, inshallah, the next 2 weeks we will not be meeting. Also, the first question or the second question is the WhatsApp group link. Please click on that link, join the group. It'll just be an announcement group chat. Also, you'll see every week before we meet, there will be a poll coming out, and you can choose the topic that you would like to see come up next. And then also there was a question about why are we taking off for the holidays. The answer, I think you can answer better than me, but a lot of people travel at the end of the year. A lot of people may be going to the Chicago convention. And also,
by then we want to relax a little bit.
We want to take a break, yes.
That's why we want to take off. But anyway, enjoy the break with your families. By the way, only 25 people voted for this poll that we sent out to the WhatsApp group. So this topic was chosen by the 25 people who voted. So your vote means something. We're going to choose our topics from it. Vote and join the group. Inshallah, we'll go based on what the most and the majority of the people want. Jazakumullah khair. بارك الله فيكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم العصر إن الإنسان في خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالصبر. You want them to finish the tea? Tea and coffee. Guys, if you didn't finish the tea and coffee and the snacks, please do that. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.